Hey, friend, welcome back to She Said, podcast. I'm your host, Laura Cox Kaplan, and I'm really excited to have you here for today's conversation. So tell me if you've ever found yourself just completely confused by what to eat. How much protein? I need supplements? How do I keep it clean and healthy, but still get all the things that I need? And if I'm cooking for my entire family, how do I get all the balance right? Well, today's conversation, you're going to love. I'm joined by the co-founders of the Clean Life Collective, Katelin Dial and Alfano. Katelin is a certified health and wellness coach who helps women use food as fuel for energy and focus, and most importantly, without all the guilt and confusion that oftentimes comes with trying to eat clean and healthy. Now, Anne, for her part, is a classically trained chef who has worked in amazing restaurants from San Francisco to New Orleans. But here's a really interesting plot twist. Before she ever set foot in the kitchen, she was a private detective. And her investigative eye still shows up in how she approaches flavor and quality and curiosity in the kitchen. Now, together, Katelin and Anne have built something that is bigger than a meal delivery company. They've created a true collective, something that combines delicious, clean meals with real community. They even host lunch and learn gatherings where women can gather together to share stories and to learn and to connect over food that actually fuels them. Now, in this conversation, Katelin, Anne, and I talk about how they built Clean Life Collective from the ground up, what every woman should know about protein, supplements, and cutting through all the noise around nutrition, how they've each navigated their own big life pivots to create something that feels really purposeful and balanced. This conversation is about food, yes, but it's also about reinvention and collaboration and creation and the kind of partnership that actually lifts everyone around it. So, friend, let's dive in. Here is episode 344, my conversation with Katelin Dial and Anne Alfano, the co-founders of Clean Life Collective. Enjoy. Katelin and Anne, welcome to She Said,
Oh my
Thank you.
gosh,
Great to be
thank you
here.
so much, Laura.
Well, I'm delighted to have you both. As you know, I am both a big fan of each of yours personally, and I'm also a customer of the Clean Life Collective. So I'm really excited about this conversation today.
We are too.
Yeah.
You are a CLC VIP, Laura.
Yeah,
CLC
you are,
VIP.
Laura.
You've
You have
reached that status.
multiple
Well,
orders.
Thank you. I hope folks won't hold that against the two of you because I do cheat maybe more than I should. In any event, we're going to talk about all those things. But I'd love to start, for those who are not in the DMV per se, I'd love for one of you to talk about what is CLC and maybe how this got started.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Caitlin?
And you want me to take that one? Okay, so CLC stands for Clean Life Collective, which is a small health and wellness platform. And what Ann and I are partnered on specifically is CLC Meals, which is the meal delivery portion of CLC. And it's one of the most effective and efficient ways we can get that clean food into families' homes. And that's been our partnership.
Yeah. I love that. So you each bring interesting backgrounds. So I'd love for you to talk about kind of what each of you brings to the table because you are doing sort of different things within the company.
Yeah.
Right.
And you go first on that one.
Well, I am the chef. I'm a classically trained chef and worked in restaurants in New York City, in the San Francisco area, Napa Valley, and New Orleans. But I think my focus was on how to make food just delicious. It was all about how to make it, how to bring it to the next level with salt, maybe throw an egg on top. Let's put some more olive oil on here. There was really no concern for health. I mean, it was about the best ingredients I could get,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like, how does this make you feel? And so when I met Katelin, she really introduced this concept to me about how food is medicine. She helped me bring that to the next level. But so I say Katelin is really she is the health coach. She is the kind of the brain about how we can really elevate our delicious food and make you feel really good after you eat it.
Yeah, yeah. Caitlin, talk a little bit about your background because you bring that coaching in health and wellness to the table, but maybe talk a little bit about how you got started with that.
Yeah. So in 2019, I graduated from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition as an integrative health coach. And you learn over 100 different dietary theories, and then you go out and coach people on how they can feel better, whether it's to help them lose weight or maintain a good weight, improve their gut health, improve energy, improve their sleep, digestion, all of those different issues. And it was so empowering. And that was the background that I was, trained in and studying and helping people with. But when I realized that a lot of the people that I was coaching to reach those goals were in need of the food to be more readily available. In fact, they were asking me quite directly if I could coach them and make the food for them. I realized I couldn't do that on my own. And I thought, this could be a good business idea. And I do know an incredible chef. I wonder if by the grace of God, she might be willing to partner with me on this. And so that's when I reached out to Chef Ann
Yeah.
because I knew that she was one of the only people in town where I had experienced such beautiful, natural,
Yeah.
clean food taste so amazing. And so when I reached out to her, I thought this could be a really great partnership.
Yeah. So I'm fascinated by and what you said earlier about the fact, you're a classically trained chef. Your biggest concern is making food taste delicious and making it beautiful. But Caitlin's approach is very, is different, right? She's focused specifically on health and wellness
Mhm.
and especially for busy moms who are raising families and trying to get this balance right of all the things. Was it hard, Anne, to kind of adapt your approach to fit more along sort of the
Mhm.
the Caitlin model of wellness and sort of healthy food? And how did you guys kind of work through that?
Well, I say it wasn't hard. We also kind of met in the middle because
Mm.
there's so many options to make healthy food delicious. It doesn't need to be smothered in cheese or oil for something to be delicious. There are many other ways to elevate it. But I will
It's
say,
often nice when it is, but
it's nice when it is, but there's just such a huge world out there of things
yeah.
you can make that taste great. Just elevating like a beautiful beet salad. If you're getting a really high quality beet from the farmer's market that has plenty, it's grown in really nutrient rich soil, it tastes amazing. And so it just kind of gave me room I was exploring those things before
Yeah.
as well, but we really kind of honed it with Caitlin. But something of note, about 5 years ago, I developed, fibroids, and I needed to get them removed.
Mm.
And that was kind of an example of inflammation in the body, and I realized, like, I was kinda sick, like, I needed to change things about my diet. And I was looking things up, like, what does an anti-inflammatory diet look like? And I remember I was, searching the web, and, I mean, 5 years ago, it was, like, quinoa, that was the only thing that I was
Right.
really that was like the buzzword. But I didn't know all these other things that Caitlin has taught me. But that's when I realized I needed to make a change. And then in eating our food that we've crafted together, I just feel so good after I eat it. So it's just a no brainer for me. And so it's not difficult. I think it's really, we've risen to the challenge and I prefer this way of cooking.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. There's a lot of things, and as trends go, there's all sorts of trends within sort of health and wellness. And right now, the thing that you just hear constantly about is protein. How much is enough? And especially for women who are in a midlife phase, maybe you're perimenopausal, maybe you're menopausal like me, or wherever you are in the stage, but everybody's talking about protein. And I feel like there's so much confusion about this topic. Let's
Mm.
talk a little bit about this. Caitlin, I'll direct this to you. Let's talk a little bit about what's the right amount? Like how do we do this? And
Yeah.
then the other question maybe for you, Anne, to think about is like, how do you get it right so that if you're, me and you need a certain amount of protein, how do you balance that with a meal that's intended for your entire family and potentially small children?
Mm.
Right. Okay. So I'll start. So yes, protein is extremely important. It's important at every stage of life, but of course, women in these perimenopause and menopause years really need to be focused on it. And as we age, right, we're trying to get enough protein that's going to support our metabolism. We want to have enough protein that's going to support our bone health. It's going to help us maintain our muscle, right? So it is a very extremely important macronutrient. And it is important to get a lot, enough. But what I am going to say is I don't like the rigidity around counting the grams,
Mm.
right? I mean, it's been thrown around very loosely, but also intimidatingly that you're supposed to be eating your body weight in protein every day. Well, that's a lot of protein.
It's a
Okay.
lot
And so
of
that's very
protein.
difficult. My advice is consistently, just try to get some protein at each meal. Try
Right.
to have some eggs at breakfast. Try to have some chicken with your lunch and try to have a piece of fish with your dinner. So it's not about stressing out about the number of grams of protein, but we all know intuitively what our body needs. And so
Mhm.
it's listening to that. At the end of the day, if you think, oh, gee, I probably didn't get enough protein. Well, tomorrow's a new day. And so try to start the day with the eggs and make sure that you include it at each meal. And, things are not based on the amount of grams that you get on a daily basis, right? It's
Yeah.
a much bigger picture,
Yeah.
much bigger picture. And so that's my big piece of advice, right? Try to get protein at each meal. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you don't one day, try to make sure that you do the next. Just
Yeah.
keep it simple. And I think you'll have it covered. And then I'll let Ann talk about how we approach that at CLC.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Well, to Caitlin's point, listen to your body. Um, but as far as protein goes, I was a butcher and charcuterie in Brooklyn, and I had the opportunity to work with some of the most beautiful meat. So we really pay attention to our meat and our protein products at CLC. We shop at the Organic Butcher, we shop at Whole Foods, but what's really important to us is not only organic but certified humane.
Mm.
Want to pick meats that were treated nicely, animals that were treated nicely. So um, quality of ingredients, quality of protein is what I really focus on, and what Caitlin
And
really focuses on.
yeah, and knowing, Laura, too, that protein is probably one of the more difficult parts of the meal to make at home.
Mhm.
Right, because if you wanna have a good chicken breast, you usually need to marinate it for a while. If
Right.
you wanna have a really good flank steak, you also need to marinate it and then cook it correctly. And a
Mhm.
lot of people don't know how to do that at home. Maybe they don't have the time to do that at home, and that's one of the ways that CLC Meals has been extremely supportive for a lot of women in those middle-age years, is because not only do we incorporate it every single entree that we also offer supplemental, right? So you can get an extra side of protein, and then you're done for the week, basically. You're going to have enough protein in your refrigerator to just throw on top of a salad, to add in at breakfast or brunch. I mean, I get pictures of people using our meat in all sorts of different ways. So, in times of day, to be honest. So it is an important macronutrient, and we offer plenty of solutions for people to get clean ways
Mhm.
of eating it.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, friend, I'm sorry to interrupt our conversation, but I did want to share that we have a brand new She Said podcast sponsor this week. AfuraCoffee.com is offering 15% off of your order with the promo code She Said. So be sure to take advantage of this great offer. Also, I've embedded some additional offers in the show notes for this episode 344. So be sure to check those out as well. And now back to our show. Caitlin, I'll direct this question to you. There's a lot of trends, and because, so many of us are on social media, you're literally inundated with those trends. We've already talked a bit about all the confusion about protein, but it doesn't stop there. There's a lot of other trends. There's, supplements. Do you need them? Do you not need them? It's all very confusing for people. Maybe give us some perspective on kind of how to help people navigate that.
Yeah, Laura, I'm so happy you asked that question. There's so many fads and fictions out there when it comes to nutrition. People are overwhelmed. And the truth is first of all, just be gentle with yourself, right? And don't stress out about having to get X number of grams of protein, or make sure that you're cutting out huge categories of food from lectins to added sugars to seed oils. I mean, people are so overwhelmed by all of this, and it makes it intimidating. And honestly, most people want to just throw in the towel when they think, ugh, I can't do it. So just forget it. But
Mhm.
the truth is, just getting one balanced meal a day can make a huge difference. And when I say a balanced meal, that's getting some amount of protein, some amount of good fiber from leafy green vegetables or other cooked good vegetables, and some good healthy fat. And that you're going to cover your bases, even just with that. And so, no, the answer is not in taking $1,000 of supplements every single day, from colostrum to collagen to, the next amino acids, whatever it might be. It's literally about getting real food, eating at least one, hopefully more balanced meals a day, and then just relaxing and enjoying your life.
Mhm,
And that's
mhm.
going to make you feel better.
How about creatine? I mean, you didn't mention creatine, but that's another one that's, we're
And
oftentimes served up.
right, right. Yeah, it's the new flavor of the day, to be
Right.
honest, Laura. I mean, it is. There's so much out there now. And the truth really is, if you do want to take a supplement, A, do not buy it off social media. Okay? B, go to your doctor and get your labs run. Figure out, what are you actually deficient in. I am not a fan of just prescribing supplements to prescribe a supplement.
Mhm,
I would only use a supplement if there were a deficiency. Okay. Or you knew that there was going to be a really busy period of life that you weren't going to be able to get the protein, or you weren't going to be able to get the minerals and the vitamins that make you feel your best. And so creatine is another version of another supplement that you can buy. But again, I'm going to say, like, go get your levels tested, see where you are. You might be doing really well before you go and spend all that money on something that you really don't know that you need.
Mm.
yeah, that's great
That's good.
advice. So, for people that are not in this area, what advice do you have for them for finding something that might be similar? I mean, I know you guys are, probably expanding at some point, right? Maybe you're going to
Yes.
take CLC global, but that's not available right now for many of the people who are listening, who
Yeah.
may be listening from all around the world. So,
Yeah.
what might be a great alternative, or how would you sort of advise them to create versions of what you're offering to your customers, which you're delivering once a week on Tuesday afternoons? What could they do as an alternative to that, or maybe helpful tips for getting this balance right so that you have that refrigerator with protein options that are ready to grab and go?
Okay. So, I mean,
Mm,
I would jump in and say two quick things, and then maybe Anne has something to add. Um, first of all, preparation is key with
mm,
protein,
Mm.
like I was alluding to earlier. If you can boil some pasture raised organic eggs and have those in your refrigerator on the ready, if
Mhm.
you can order from Butcher Box or from other really great national delivery companies that have really clean, high quality proteins that you can have in your freezer and thaw and cook up really quickly, things along those lines are like wild caught salmon. It takes, very little time to thaw, very little time to cook. A quick sear, 2 minutes aside, and it's usually done.
yeah.
So you want to come up with a very good list of easy to make proteins. Really beautiful jarred tuna. That's an
Mhm.
easy solution to get plenty of protein. One jar of tuna has over 30 grams of protein. And so you can check that box really easily by getting things like that and keeping those on hand.
Mhm.
The other thing I would say is seeking out other options similar to CLC. I know that it's not your standard delivery, so you do have to do a little due diligence, but they're popping up more and more frequently across the country, and you need to look for companies that adhere to these standards. They're going to use grass-fed beef. They're going to seek out the organic chicken.
Mhm.
So just trying to adhere to those principles when and where you can.
Mhm.
And then also to not stress too much. So, making sure that you're just getting enough of those protein options available when you can.
I love that.
I do want to add one piece here. While what Caitlin is saying, it is utilitarian to have meat in your freezer. Like, that's really helpful.
Mhm.
But we don't freeze our meat. Our meat at CLC is not frozen. We cook it fresh, which when you do freeze meat, like the cellular structure changes. And so it's going to be safe to eat. It's delicious and great, and it's a realistic way to eat. for busy families. But there is a taste difference if you're using non-frozen meat, and that's what we use at CLC.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You guys are busy entrepreneurs. You got a lot on your plate. Katelin, I know you have children, and I'm not sure. Do you have children as
I have a
well?
cat. I have a
You have
cat
a
and a
cat.
boyfriend.
But you have a lot going on and a lot of things to balance. Maybe talk a little bit about what you've learned starting this business. Especially, it's not just about healthy eating, even though that's a really important component of keeping yourself well. But there are other elements too in terms of balancing your time and your mindset and dealing with challenges that are inevitable. Maybe talk a little bit about what you've learned in starting this business together and advice that you might have for other women who are listening to this conversation thinking, oh, that's an interesting idea. I might want to do something like that.
Hmm.
That's a great question, Laura. I think balance is tricky, right? When you're an entrepreneur, and particularly if you're in my shoes, which is also being a mother of four. So I think one of the number one tips is keeping that priority list, right? What are the things that need immediate action, right? What are the things that need immediate action and getting those done? I mean, you really do have to get things done. And you can't procrastinate when you're in this kind of business. So you get those things done, and then you have the next tier, right, of things that you need to achieve. And that can be the smaller things that are not most immediate and have to be done right away, right? Those are the bigger picture items like the marketing. And you plug those in, right? I feel like it's almost like 45-minute increments throughout the day where you can get stuff done and you've got to be effective.
Mhm.
And I think that making lists is a great way to do it. Anne is really good about this with timers. And tell them your timer trick. I feel
I
like
set a
timers are always
timer.
going off. She's like, a timer.
Yeah. So if I have some an overwhelming amount of tasks that have to be done, it blinds me from like getting anything done, starting one task. So what I do is I give myself, let's say, 15 minutes to attack the first line item, and I'm not allowed to think about anything else except for that first item. And I set a timer for 15 minutes. And when it goes off, it's time to move to the next one. And that way, that's how I manage my time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Was
And
that something that you learned in the kitchen? And I mean, one of the things
Yeah.
that I have always struggled if I'm making dinner for a dinner party, God forbid, and if my friends are listening to this conversation, they're rolling their eyes because I am truly the worst in the kitchen, largely for this reason. I find it super overwhelming to figure out how to pace the meal. The
Mhm.
preparation of the meal is like it's mind numbing. And even with a list and timer and all the things, like I find that really hard. And I'm curious if that was something that you learned with your formal training as a chef, or kind of
Oh, yeah.
if that's how you approach it that way. Does that question make any sense at all?
Oh, for sure. There's a
Okay.
whole segment in culinary school about timelines. You have to draw out a timeline
Uh-huh.
for the meals that you're going to make in class that day. And so when you have a practical exam, which is the name for an exam in culinary school, you're given like 2 hours, and so everybody maps out exactly what they're going to be doing every 5 minutes. And now I can do it with my eyes closed, but at the time it was very important to have be so regimented. So drawing out a timeline, um, making your list of what needs to happen. Now I can look at the day in a macro view. I have a list of what needs to happen, but I prioritize the things that need to braise. Those need to go in first, and then the
Okay.
salad needs to be dressed last. So create your timeline and your list of items and kind of put them on that timeline and maybe set some timers. It sounds a little regimented, but it will teach you to pace yourself.
Yeah.
Laura, that is like the best analogy I've actually just made in my head here. Like hosting a dinner party or cooking a large amount of food is not dissimilar from trying to attack a day of tasks as an entrepreneur.
Mm.
What are the things that are going to take the longest, and then break those down and start with those, right? Like it's so
Mhm.
interesting that that analogy kind of works because it is how Anne operates in our kitchen. It's like what thing has the longest cooking time? Okay, we got to start with that first,
Yeah.
right?
Also, what's the most difficult? Start with that. And the easiest you say for
That
last.
that's actually what every
That's brilliant.
every
Yeah,
business coach would tell you, do the hardest
yeah,
task
first.
first,
First.
right? Get it done. So that is how we kinda run the kitchen as
Mhm.
well. So that's
I love
interesting.
that. I
Yeah,
absolutely love that.
Great
Okay,
example.
there's another thread here that I'm not exactly sure exactly how to weave it in, but this feels like the perfect moment, so we'll just do it. We talked a little bit about each of your respective background stories, but there's an element of Anne's in particular that I'm curious kind of how the thread runs. And Anne, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anne was before
Bring it
she
on,
went to
Laura.
at least I think I have the timing right. Before she went to culinary school, she was a private detective, which
Yep.
I think is so fascinating. So maybe take us back
Yeah,
to that part of your journey and maybe is there a thread that connects these things? But let's go back to sort of how you ended up there and what about that work was appealing and then how and why you transitioned
sure.
into the culinary world.
I love this story because I think I'm an example of you don't have to do one thing for the rest of your life. You can
Right?
switch around. So I went to Middlebury College in Vermont and majored in international studies with French, with a minor in econ. And I went and it was after 9/11. And I knew somebody, so I had a connection to get into the James Mintz Group, which is a really great private detective firm. Um, and I was low man on the totem pole, but my job was we worked for former CIA, former FBI, former NYPD, and I was given a name of somebody, and I just had to run it through all these databases. And sorry, this sounds super technical, but the point is, you could create a story
Uh-huh.
from all these different databases about like a target individual. But I was researching heads of companies to see if they had any skeletons in their closets. If you're going to hire a CFO of your company, you want to make sure that they didn't have any hidden bankruptcies, things like that. Know what you're up against. So it really taught me the scope of like how to research, how to organize, and that things don't appear as they do on a face level. And then I just had a deep, deep love for cooking. It chose me. I didn't choose it. It got to the point where that's all I wanted to read about. That's all I wanted to do. But in my family, my dad he's first generation in his family to go to college, and he busted his butt to send me to all of these expensive schools. And he said, "You're going to leave this cushy job and go to culinary school where you might earn $9 an hour when you get out. And the cost of culinary school is commensurate to like a law degree. It's really
Right.
expensive. So it was a really big gamble, but I didn't care. I just wanted to do it. And I'm really lucky that it worked out. But I had to do it. It was just a soul journey. It was a soul connection. And I'm so glad. I really think that when you find your passion and you're on the right path, the universe will work in wonderful ways to get you there. And that's what happened for me.
I love that. That's an amazing story. Caitlin, you have a very different story in terms of how you ended up in this world.
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable sharing a little bit about your personal story and how you started down the path of health and wellness and what that looked like for you, because I think it's a really important story, I think, for people to know and understand because you faced a moment where you had to do something it was really you had to find a way to make a living and provide for your kids. So talk a little bit about your story and how you ended up here.
So in 2019, I went through a pretty difficult divorce and my financial situation changed pretty drastically. And I knew, and my attorneys kept telling me, you're going to have to go back to work. You're
Mhm.
going to have to go back to work. And I knew I couldn't go back to what I used to do, which, I worked with your husband and
Right.
politics and at the White House, and those hours were going to be impossible. I had a 1 year old, and then my older three, my children were ages 1 up to age 8. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to do something where I would have flexibility, where I could also help people and be available for them. So that's when I enrolled in nutrition school. I had reached out to a dear friend who was at the time the nutritionist writing for the Washington Post. And I said, I need to go back to work and I think I want to do it in nutrition. And she said, go to this school. It's actually online. You could do it when your kids are napping and when your kids are asleep. And so I did it and came out as a health coach. And then one thing led to the next. And here we are now running this meal delivery company.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So you mentioned this earlier in the conversation, but you still have an additional piece of this business which is focused on your health coaching. Maybe talk a
Yes.
little bit about how these pieces are ultimately integrated because you're doing workshops for women, putting and men too, but primarily women, I may imagine. But
Yeah.
you're putting together workshops and opportunities for them to learn about this. Maybe talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that piece of what you're doing.
Okay. So currently on the days when we don't do the meal delivery, I do integrative health coaching. I'm typically meeting with women, middle-aged women who are busy mothers or they're very high-powered career women in the Washington, D.C. area or across the country, to be honest. And I'm helping them achieve their optimal health, whether that is, you know, because they are just confused by all the mixed messages out there. They don't know what to eat anymore to support their bodies, whether they need to improve their gut health, they want a better energy, whatever it might be. And so I spend my time one on one with them, supporting them and reaching those health goals, right? And that actually translates really well into the meal delivery because it informs me with what do these women, these busy working moms really need to help themselves feel their best in their bodies, to strengthen their own body, and
Mhm.
also to feed their family.
Yeah.
And so that is where CLC Meals has become completely intertwined with the health coaching business. And I've used that not only to inform the way that we design the product that we deliver, so that it's very flexible. It can be intended just for that mom for the whole week or that working woman for the whole week, or it can be there to feed the whole family. There's plenty of options to add extra
Mhm.
soup, salad, entrees, whatever they might need. And it's designed again with that idea of good proteins, tons of healthy vegetables with loads of fiber. People are all into fiber maxing these days. We've got you covered. And most of it's coming from a farmer's market, so it's extra nutrient dense. And then we've got plenty of options for really good, healthy fats in there, exclusively using olive oil and all that being informed with this integrative nutrition background.
Mhm.
Love
And
that.
then tossing all of that over into Anne's hands to make it really extra delicious.
I love what you just said because that awareness that you get about your customer, your community,
Yeah.
you're gaining that because you're spending time with her one-on-one or a version of her essentially.
Yes.
And I
And by the
love
way,
that.
I'm calling them all the time and I'm like, "Did that
Yeah.
work out? How was that?" I speak to our customers on a regular basis to figure out, "How do we tweak this? How can we better serve you? How can we help you win the day? We're here for you," you know? And that's what's been really fun as we've evolved. The product that we offer now is not how it started 4 years ago.
Right.
So it's been fun to get customer feedback to actually finally get into a place where we know the product we offer is actually really helping fit what they need.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and what was the biggest shift in terms of the product offering that you guys have made?
Well, I think, Caitlin has had the opportunity to really speak with a lot of our clients, and we heard them loud and clear, more protein.
Yeah.
Yeah, protein and
Right,
larger.
larger portions. So we increased the amount of protein and decreased um, the number of items offered. So we found a size that worked, seems to be better received by the customers. How has the product changed?
Well,
We
mainly
had
from like
some we had some steak.
we had like the full order, the half order.
Well, we had a
And
full order, we had
when
a
we
half
tried
order.
out the CLC Simple over the summer and the CLC Simple sold so well, we
Mhm.
thought, "Oh, well, the market is telling us what we need to offer. This is what is helping these families. This is what's helping these women
Right.
in particular." They really thrived on that CLC Simple model, which is now what we is our standard
Mhm.
offering. And
Yeah.
it's
Right.
offered as like that standard and then you build on it,
Right.
right? A lot of customers use just that one standard offering for themselves for the week.
Mhm.
Then
Mhm.
a lot of other customers use that standard offering and then build. Like they get the extra salad, the extra soup, the extra proteins, and then they feed the whole family for several
Right.
days.
Yeah. Maybe talk a little bit about, we've talked about your respective backgrounds and what you bring to the table. Maybe talk a little bit about, when you forge a partnership with someone, it is as involved, if not more so, than a marriage. And I've heard
It's
a
like a
lot
marriage.
of right? It is a
It
marriage. I
is.
mean,
Well,
in fact,
work-wise.
you
Work-wise.
two probably spend more time with each other than you do with any respective others.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about advice that you have for others who might be thinking about entering into a partnership, and what are the most important qualities that you looked for in a partner, and also advice for how you navigate things where you have a difference of opinion.
Mm. I will say, one key. I love Caitlin dearly, and we get along very well. So aside from that, just like on a practical.
I wasn't trying to start a fight, just to
Oh
be
yeah, yeah.
We know, by the way, we know how to resolve it, so it's
Oh,
okay.
good. Oh, good.
Right. Right. Conflict resolution is very important.
Yeah.
But we have different skill sets. So we also stay in our lanes. And then once in a while the lanes will intersect. And so we have an idiom that we say, if one of us wants to do something, you have to kind of label it. This is not the hill I want to die on, or this is the hill I want to die on. So that
Yeah.
means
That's
I'm going to
true.
really fight hard for this one. But we know when to pick our battles, and we can voice that. And we have we've really learned how to communicate very well with each other.
Yeah.
And if there is a spat, we address it right away, and we get over it, and we're the best of friends very soon right after.
Yeah. I love the advice of Ina Garten. She always says, "Only work with people who smile." And while if you catch Anne at the wrong moment, you will not know that she smiles really beautifully, but most of the time she is smiling, and
I
that's
have resting bitch face in the kitchen when people come in. So that's why
do
Caitlin
not
is up.
mess with her when she's trying to execute. Do not
I'm
mess
very
with her.
serious in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a
so
real.
thank
It's
goodness
her.
we have the lovely, smiley Caitlin to, she's our face for our customer.
To counterbalance Anne's insane RBF. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, it's important. So no, and the truth is, Laura, that's such a good question, but it is about respect and communication. I mean, it is like, any really significant relationship in your life, the person that you choose to work with and work with, that we are like work wives. We know everything about each other, basically.
Yeah.
Don't ask Anne any of my dark secrets, because then she'll have to say no, I can't tell you. But it's like it's about respect and communication. And I do think Ina Garten has a point there. Hire people who smile. We laugh, we dance in the kitchen, we crack up. I mean, you got to keep it light. And it's a wonderful blessing in our lives to work with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much did you do on the front end in terms of your partnership agreement and really like outlining, okay, this is my lane, this is your lane, and really being formal about that, or not? And how
Can I take this
important
one,
is it,
Caitlin?
or not?
I've
Really
had a
formal
few,
about it. Yeah.
I've had a few businesses before this, and entered into various partnership agreements. Um, and my father's a lawyer, so a contract attorney. So I've just been hearing it pretty much my whole life. Make sure the devil's in the details. And so I've proceeded with really stringent partnership agreements that turned kind of sour. It left a bad taste in people's mouths, and there were also things that we couldn't predict in the future. So I'm not saying it's not important to have a partnership agreement. You should, but I guess there's also it's okay you really need to respect the person that you work with, and they need to be a good person, because when you do when the going gets tough, I will say that Caitlin and I are, both of us are pretty religious. And I think that is a nice thread, and a kind of a common trust that we have in each other too.
Yeah. Definitely. Our faith is important to us.
Faith is important.
Shared values.
And
Yeah.
shared values, our faith is important to us.
Yeah.
And that has been a blessing in a multitude of ways. So sort of, if you can find that, that's great. But, also, I think we've forgotten almost now that, 4 years ago, we did have to sit down and write out. After we started working, we realized, it began as sort of like throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
right? Is this gonna work? Okay, whoa, this is sticking. Okay, we probably need to formalize this. What are you gonna be responsible for? What am I gonna be responsible for? And
Mhm.
that is extraordinarily important because
Yes.
when those things get blurry, you get bitter. Oh, I thought she was doing that, or I'm spending more
Right.
time doing that. That was critical for us. So then we knew where our lane was. We stay in and we run with it. And we
Mhm.
both try to do it as best as we can. And that builds a really strong foundation for a successful business
Yeah. I love I love that
partnership.
you just said that, and I was thinking as you were talking, it's interesting because I think sometimes people won't take the risk of starting a business or starting a partnership because they're like, "Okay, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know how all these pieces are gonna fit together," and so they sort of sit on it. But you guys, you just started. You just started to your point, like, you
Yeah.
threw things
I mean,
against the wall.
my kids and I were folding boxes in the basement where Ann and
Mhm.
I are like, oh, let's hope the food fits in these containers. Like, looks about right. Looks
Yeah.
about right. I mean, we were sitting here at this desk, like thumbing through
Yeah.
these catalogs, going, well, that looks good. Let's see if soup goes well in that.
Yeah, so we
You know,
didn't start
and
with a
by the
lot of
way,
things.
it didn't. By the way, it didn't. So we pivoted, we reinvented, we just kept learning and kept taking the risk, kept taking the next step.
Yeah.
You
But
just
we did
keep
not
going.
start with a lot of formality, and then it just started sticking, and then you have to develop formalities
Yeah.
as you go, and so we gradually develop formalities, but what the reason we're able to exist in that space is because we have deep respect for each other and
Yeah.
good communication skills, which not everybody has with their partner, but I'm really lucky to say that I really love my partner,
It's
so
true.
I'm really blessed.
Vice versa. Yeah.
I mean, I would think that would be absolutely essential, right?
Yeah.
I love that. I love the relationship that the two of you have, and I love that idea that we just talked about the fact that you don't have to have the perfect thing to get started. An
No.
idea is enough, and trying it and really being willing to try things and recognizing not everything we're trying is going to work out, right?
Yeah, it really
Being
doesn't.
willing to
Now, by the
pivot.
way, I'm gonna guarantee you that it won't. So be ready. It
Yeah.
won't. And then you pivot. And then
Yeah.
you figure it out. You just keep going. The biggest thing is you just keep going. Keep going. Keep believing in your mission.
Yeah.
Keep
Mhm.
believing in your mission, knowing that, for us it is we are creating beautifully crafted artisanal meals that actually make people feel better.
Mm, yeah.
And if they feel better, then they're going to be better. They're going to be a better parent. They're going to be a better partner. They're going to be a better, employee or business owner, and entrepreneur. And then it's a trickle down effect from there. And then everything else is better, and it affects all areas of their life. And so we talk about that. We literally, when we send the meals out on Tuesdays, we like literally say, we really hope this helps all of our customers feel better. We're so thankful for every order, and we hope that this makes every customer feel better this week.
I
It's our
love
mission.
that.
So,
And we taste test everything too, of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, if you ever need an extra taster, you know where I live. Um,
yes.
okay, for anyone listening who, for you guys may be new to them, where can they find you? Maybe share your website and the best ways to contact you and work with you, both the meal delivery as well as your coaching, Caitlin.
Great. Yes, you can order our meals and find out more about our meal delivery at clcmeals.com. So that's easy. Clean Life Collective is where you'll find blog posts, also information about my health coaching, integrative health. And you can follow us too on Instagram under Clean Life Collective DC. And we post all sorts of different things, chef tips, recipes, upcoming menus. And we hear from a lot of people who aren't in DC that even when we post our menus or pictures of our food, they at home, while they may not be in our area, like to try to emulate that and imitate it, knowing that it's a good balance or ideas for what they can make at home.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, ladies, thank you. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy to spend time with you both today and looking very forward to my next delivery of CLC. So,
Yes, Laura,
excellent.
thank you so
Thank
much.
thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Absolutely.